When Sky told us he was going to join us in India for a short while, I asked him where he wanted to go. Where was it that had inspired him the most from our previous trip? And he told me that he really wanted to go to Darjeeling. So, that is where we went the next day.
I'm actually just going to film straight out the windscreen for a while, just so that you can get an idea of what this road is like and how narrow, how windy it is. And as you can hear, there's a lot of hooting going on, but that's not because anyone's angry with anyone else, just to warn oncoming cars, because all of these corners are totally blind and very narrow. And yeah, it's like basically the reason why it takes so long to get up to Darjeeling is that it's like 80 kilometers of this. So yeah, it's not exactly freeway speeds we're doing, but still it's a lovely drive.
Driving up to Darjeeling is almost like entering another country. The scenery changes dramatically as you climb further and further up. It gets remarkably cooler and the vibe starts to change. The people are remarkably polite and helpful. There's none of the hassling that you get on the streets in the lowland areas of northern India, and the whole experience is just very pleasant. We had a lovely place to stay in Darjeeling this time, a shot of which is coming up quite shortly, round about now. That evening we went off to one of our favorite restaurants called Glenary's for the first of what I think was 3 slightly excessive dinners that we had there.
That morning, we went back up to Glenary's, taking a much longer walk this time than the last night, mostly because I couldn't really keep a normal pace, and my chest felt like someone was sitting on it. But we did get there, and I ended up having pizza for lunch. I mean breakfast. Even though it was lovely, I couldn't really finish it. Apparently, a much reduced appetite is also a sign of altitude sickness. It isn't every day that you get to sincerely tell your mother that your heart hurts. We went back home and I asked if I could have the rest of the day off to recover. After I went back to sleep, Mom and Ed arranged for our trip back down to Bagdogra in a few days, and they also arranged for a tour of Darjeeling for the next day. We started off today with a 7-point tour of Darjeeling. The first stop was kind of a 2-in-1 deal, both the zoo and also the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute. The Mountaineering Institute was structured kind of like a museum. It was very, very interesting. It was also the first place where I was part of what seemed like the traditional pastime of getting tourists to pose in pictures with you. I was a little sad going through the zoo though. I really do wish that the animals had larger enclosures, but I can't deny that it was an amazing experience. We saw many animals. I must say, however, that the star of the show was the red panda. It was so adorable. Anyway, after that we went to our third stop, which was the ropeway. However, against my intuition, the ropeway was not a treetop rope harness affair through in the arboreal biome. Instead, it was basically a really long cable car ride down to some tea plantations and a small village area where we had a snack and a drink. The view was mind-bogglingly beautiful. It was foresty and mountainy. It was just fantastic. The fourth stop was at a tea plantation. We had a small cup of black tea. We just took pictures of some of the other tourists in period-appropriate costume, pretending to pick tea. However, that's really not my style or Ed's style or my mom's style, really. The fifth stop was the Tenzing Norgay Rock, where the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute's rock climbing trainings are held. After that, we went to the sixth and seventh stops. That was the Buddhist temple and also the Peace Shrine Pagoda. It was really very pretty, and my mom took a lot of photos. Anyway, after the tour, we went back to Glenary's for dinner. This was now the third time at the same restaurant, and as much as it really was an absolutely lovely meal, I was getting a little frustrated that we weren't trying tiny random local places like I wanted. This, however, would change. We started off today with a taxi ride to our destination. After walking around the market and checking out various shops, we stopped into a very small restaurant. The menu was only about 6 items long. I really enjoyed what I had, which turned out to be some sort of chicken noodle soup. Ed went on his crusade for Doc Martens in a size that would fit our comparatively large feet. We eventually had some lunch at a coffee shop that was actually really decent, and we each had some sort of Italian-styled sandwich. After lunch, we went back out into the markets. Eventually, we all made our way back home. After a bit of time, we decided that my mum and I needed to go find some takeaways. We ended up finding a place called a mini restaurant, and it really was mini.
It was at this tiny restaurant while we were waiting for our takeaway food where we met our new friend, Mickey Lama. Mickey was solely responsible for the most nerve-wracking bike ride I've ever had in my life. 3 up on a little scooter going through the dark streets of Darjeeling. Not something easily forgotten.
The down trip from Darjeeling was an exercise in utter terror, owing to the fact that we had a kamikaze driver who clearly had arranged some kind of assignation at the bottom of the mountain, for which he needed to create time. So he saved time by driving at 497 k's an hour.